So, good morning, Rosario Marin. It is a pleasure to be talking with you, recording your amazing story this afternoon and this morning. And we really appreciate your giving some time to the Treasury Historical Association's series on women in leadership at the Treasury. And I can't imagine a better place to begin than with your story. I don't want to steal any of your thunder, so why don't you tell us about what makes your story unique and what led you to become the treasurer of the United States?
Thank you, Julie. And it's really my privilege to be part of this amazing story of the history of our country. And to be part of it has been the highlight of my life. When President Bush, George W. Bush, appointed me Treasurer of the United States, he made history. I am the first woman immigrant to the United States to have her signature grace the U.S. currency. And I believe that it doesn't say so much about me, the fact that I became Treasurer of the United States, but it says about him as president, and more importantly, what it says about our country. That in this country, the greatest nation on earth, an immigrant who couldn't even speak English when she arrived as a young girl can become the Treasurer of the United States. That's how much it speaks about our country. Don't let anybody tell you anything less than this is the greatest country in the world. Uh, I never even dreamed, people talk about the dreams. I never even dreamed to be in Washington, D.C., let alone, be the Treasurer of the United States. But that's the story of America. That's the story that has made it possible for so many people to come to this country and make it and make more than their dreams come true. So, how did that happen? How did President Bush select me? And why me, right? Um, Life has an interesting way of getting you where you're supposed to be. I believe that. And when I came to this country, I didn't speak English. I was very young. I was 14 years old. I did not want to come to this country. I am very honest about that because I was going to be missing my quinceañera. And the quinceañera is the big party that when a girl turns 15 has, uh, we dream of this party. And certainly, if we came to this country, I was going to miss it. And I was very distraught. I did not want to come. I did not want to miss my quinceañera. What I didn't know is that the reason why we were coming is because we were very poor. And if we had stayed in Mexico, all I would have been able to achieve was the ninth grade level of education, which I had already achieved. And so my parents knew the only way to be better, if you will, economically was for my dad. My dad came here first, and he came here legally. At that time, we had programs in the United States that enable people to go to countries like Mexico, guarantee employment, and then that would guarantee their green card. That same company went 2 years later and provided all of the information. They filled out our paperwork, and we were very lucky and we were very blessed, and we were able to come to this country legally. And uh, my mother, who saw me crying because I was going to miss my quinceañera, I was crying for 2 days on the trip from Mexico City to the border in Tijuana in San Isidro. And she promised me that we would go back. She says, I don't know how we're going to do it, but I promise you, we will go back and you will have your quinceañera. And I said, okay. And that happened. And the reason why I say, and I always talk about this because it, it, it talks about the mother's love for her children. And it also talks about the commitment and the respect to fulfill an obligation. And so we did go back. Today I know what kind of sacrifices they had to do so that this little girl would have her party. And we did. And it wasn't anything like I intended or planned, but it was my party. So we came back and I was able to go into high school. And in high school, at that time, all of the students had to take an IQ test. And the average IQ is 100 points. Mine came back as 27 points. And everybody laughed at me. My teacher laughed at me. Um, but inside of me, what I said was, well, this only shows that I don't speak English because the test was in English. And so rather than making me feel sad or angry or poor little girl or look at her, she's developmentally delayed or something like that, it was no, learn English, learn it well, learn it fast, and then they can test me again. Um, 3 years later, I graduated from high school into top 20 students of the graduating class, which was over 400 students. And then I went to work. Even though I could have had the opportunity to go to college, uh, the reality at home, the situation at my home was that I had to go to work and I had to go to work full time, but I went to college at night. It took me 7 years to get my 4 year degree, but I did it. Nobody gave me a scholarship, nobody gave me a loan. Clearly, my parents couldn't afford it. So I worked. I went first to a community college and then to Cal State LA in Los Angeles, obviously. Um, and I say this because I think it's so important. If you want something, yes, it's not going to be easy. Sometimes it's very hard, but you can do it. You have everything within you. And so to me, it was very important to get my education. And then we started our master's program. Both my husband and I, we got married. I was 23 when I got married. I was very young. Um, and we started our master's degree, and my life couldn't be better. I was working for a bank, City National Bank. I started as the assistant to the receptionist. And 6 years later, I was going to be named assistant vice president for the bank. Uh, it doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't. It matters where you end. And City National Bank was very, very generous. They knew I was going to school. They knew I wanted to better myself. They knew I was working very hard. I was the first one in, the last one out. I was there before the president of the bank, before the owner of the bank, Mr. Brand Goldsmith. And they knew that I was working very hard to improve myself. And they gave me, every 6 months, they were promoting me. They gave me a lot of opportunities. I am profoundly grateful. Um, and then my son was born, and he was born with Down syndrome. And everything that I had hoped and that I had worked for came crashing down. Eric not only had Down syndrome, he had many medical complications. Um, a few months after Eric was born, I got pregnant again, and I knew this pregnancy was going to be somehow was going to make up for the pain and the sorrow that we had lived with Eric. And then I lost that pregnancy, and it was very, very tough. I went spiraling down. Um, I gave up my MBA. I didn't even call the school to let them know I was not going to continue. I talked to the people at the bank and gave up my position. Um, I was making more money than my husband, so we decided that I would stay home and take care of Eric. When that happened, more than 50% of your household income disappears from one day to the next. So we had to sell our house. It was very difficult. It was very, very, very difficult. There were days that I would go to sleep hoping that I wouldn't wake up. Um, I always took care of my son. I always fed him, I always bathed him, but I forgot about myself. I sometimes would eat, sometimes I wouldn't eat. Sometimes I would take a shower, sometimes I wouldn't take a shower. Many times, just the way that I wake up, it was exactly the same way I would go back to sleep. I became very depressed, very, very depressed because my life in 1 year had changed so dramatically with so much loss, with so many changes, very stressful. My hair would fall off. And little did I know that things happen exactly as they should. And now I think, what if somebody would have sat right next to me and say, Rosario, um, in a few years, when Eric is 6 years old, you're going to be changing um, laws for people with disabilities. You're going to be working for a governor and you're going to be changing laws. I certainly wouldn't have believed that. Or if they would say, a few years later, um, you would be elected to the city council and you'll become the mayor of the city. I know nothing about politics. That couldn't possibly be. Or a few years later, you're going to be treasurer of the United States. I mean, for crying out loud, how, right? Or run for the U.S. Senate, or work for Governor Schwarzenegger and run one of the largest agencies in the state of California with 17,000 employees and 17 state departments. Um, if anybody would have said that that would have happened, I would not have believed that. But this is the greatest country in the world, and this happens.
What a journey that was. What an incredible tale. And I could follow through and ask you all sorts of questions about everything that you've just outlined. But let's focus a little more on your time as treasurer. When when you got there, was there one person or one event that sort of got you to the U.S. Treasury more than others?
Today I know how things work. I didn't know how things work, but certainly there are profiles that presidential personnel, certainly the president, that to get people in his administration. And I checked a lot of boxes. I checked the box that I had been in banking. I knew the financial system, that I had been in government. I was the mayor of a city, that I was a woman. Clearly, we needed more women, especially at Treasury. The fact that I was Mexican, the fact that I was an immigrant, the fact that I had a child with a disability. It's like almost the only thing that I was a veteran. But I have tremendous respect for our veterans. But other than that, it seemed like there was that I was able to, as treasurer of the United States, I was going to be able to relate to quite a lot of people, and vice versa. There would be a lot of people that would relate to me because I was in one of those boxes, right? And so it was. I had been very active in the president's campaign. When he was governor, he was the candidate to be president of the United States. I was the mayor of the city of Huntington Park, where I've lived all my life since we came to the United States. And so I was able to. I was bringing, a lot of qualities, if you will, a lot of things that made me very relatable to many people within this country. And so I could talk to bankers because I'd been in banking. I could talk to immigrants because I was an immigrant. I could talk to women, and that was very helpful when I went around the country to talk to different groups. I was able to relate to them because I think that is one of the most powerful tools. When you are in a position of authority, you get the microphone. And when you are at the microphone, people listen to you. So whether I was there advancing the president's agenda, economic agenda, as you very well know, I was treasurer in 2001. Right immediately, I was there before 9/11, And clearly, after 9/11, I was part of the group at Treasury that went around the country selling the president's economic and fiscal policies. So I was part of that group at Treasury, and many of the people, obviously, with the economic advisors. And my job was, I went, I have no idea. I'm sure somebody can take a look at it, but I went to so many states to advance the president's economic and fiscal policies, um, especially after 9/11. We needed to have that support, uh, nationwide to advance his policies, which were very good and helped us a lot and helped us out of we were hoping, I mean, we were in a recession and we were afraid that we would go in a second recession or, stagnation. And so we advanced many of the well, we advanced his policies, and they were very good policies. So I think that that was one of my contributing aspects. The other thing that I did that was very important, and I will always be so grateful, was financial literacy. I led the effort within Treasury uh, to to educate people across the United States about financial literacy. We still have, to this day, many, many challenges trying to teach people financial independence. And so, um, but that was one of the things that I led. One of the proudest accomplishments for me was to reduce the cost of remittances. The remittances are the monies that people in the United States send to countries of origin. You know, in this
Mhm.
particular case, in my case, was Mexico, and I was very. But the policies that we advanced were for all remittances, and so they were very helpful. And that coupled with financial literacy, I think it became something very worthwhile. I oftentimes share the fact that if I don't do anything more in my life, the fact that we did that and we were so successful at reducing the cost of remittances, um, that's it. I consider myself very, very, very proud of that accomplishment.
Wonderful. Do you have any idea how many people you might have, how many lives you might have changed because of those two policies?
No, no, I have no way to quantify that, and in a way, it's better. And in a way, sometimes I feel, you know, um, the fact that nobody knows that I did that, it's even more uh, something that pardon the expression, but I do treasure that. You know, knowing that lives have improved because of the work that we did. I can go to sleep feeling very fulfilled, feeling like I did something good. And that is a feeling that no one can take away, even if nobody knows about it.
Yes, absolutely. That's really insightful, and it's a rare person who can feel that way. Was there any particular day or any particular event? I mean, obviously, you were there during a very, very critical moment right after 9/11. Was there one particular event that sort of stands out as funny or I can't believe that happened, or just on a little bit lighter side, there you were working so hard and trying to advance these policies and keep the country together and um, help the people that you've just described. You think you've really been able to make a big difference. Was there just this event that you just thought, oh, only this is, I'll never forget that one?
Well, there are so many moments, Julie. I can tell you. So one that is, I'll share three very fast. One is having flown on Air Force One with President Bush and President Vicente Fox. That I will go to my death knowing. I mean, I couldn't sleep the night before, knowing that I was going to be on Air Force One with the two presidents of the countries that I love. It was literally, I couldn't sleep the night before. It's like such I was so grateful to to God, to my country. I was just grateful to life that I would have that opportunity. I share something with President Bush, one conversation that I had. This is so funny. Well, I think it's funny. Um, he probably doesn't remember this, but I said, so I'm the 41st Treasurer of the United States, right? He's the 43rd President of the United States. So I said, so, Mr. President, do you realize that my club is more exclusive than your club? Because everybody talks about the President's Club, the most exclusive club in the world, right? And he looked at me, and mine has 41 members. Yours has 43. Mine is more exclusive, right? And he looks at me and he says, and do you know what I can do to your club? I'll see you, Mr. President. Goodbye. Oh my God. Anyways, to me, it's just a story that, he's very quick, he's very witty. Um, on the other side, I'll share with you one moment that is still in my mind. It's just moments that are on your mind forever. It was a few days after 9/11, and he called a few members of his cabinet and sub cabinet to a meeting there at the White House. And he talked about the fact, and he actually said something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase it, but says, so you may think that you got here because you're very good and very important and very intelligent and you've done great things, and probably some of that is true. But the reality is that you are here because we have been chosen to answer the call in the moment of greatest need of our nation. It's to realize that we're there as public servants and we're there to answer the needs of our nation at its most critical moment. That gave me such a sense of purpose, such, um, public service meant something. That's why we are here for. I will never forget that moment. It was this calling you. We have been called to serve the nation at its greatest moment of need. And that to me is really what all public servants, you know, uh, that's how we should look at public service. And I'm just so grateful that whatever my contributions have been were done when our nation demanded it, needed it the most.
Well, we're lucky that we had you there when we did. And thank you for standing up and answering the call, because not everybody has to do that, you know. So there was real leadership there, and you were part of that leadership. So we thank you for taking that on. Let's we're all talking about so many great events that happened, and I'm wondering now, fast forward to today. Um, you're involved with some really important initiatives. Can you tell us what you're doing in the area of advancing the women who come behind us and young girls, and how you might be helping to influence the way they see the future?
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. So I serve on a number of different organizations. I will always be involved with uh, people with disabilities, so I serve on a couple of boards to that. But I also serve on Hispanic 100, which is tries to promote Latinos in California to young students to go to college, and many of them are women, Latinas. I also serve, and this is probably one of the organizations that I find the most fulfilling, if you will, and it's Hope, the Hispanics Organized for Political Equality. We have created a group that is a binational fellows, and we are trying to uh, first find the talent of women, Latinas, that are leaders, that are there to provide a public service, if you will, but we take them from nonprofit organizations, from corporate America, people that want to get into politics, and we have expanded this. We used to do it just for California. Today we have 1,200 Latina leaders across the state that do just that. And when the call comes, if you will, this is what we're doing, this is how we're helping, we all answer that call. We now have expanded that to be national and then binational with Women in Mexico. It's we are going to our job, right, is to promote Latinas, to further Latinas, but I work with all kinds of anybody that comes in and calls me. If you're a woman, I am going to support you. If you're a Latina, I am going to support you. If you're a Latino, I'm going to support you. But it's mainly women, because I do believe that women make a big difference. And not that we're better than men, but we do complement men. And we need more women to be on corporate boards. We need more women in the legislatures. We need more women in the White House. We need more women in the state houses. We need more women, because we do look at challenges or opportunities in different ways. And we contribute, with our intelligence, with our backgrounds, with our education, and with our willingness to do as much as we can in a different way that men do. We look at things differently. I'm not saying better, I'm just saying differently. And when we bring those two together, I think there's nothing that we cannot do, that we cannot, no challenge that we cannot overcome. So I'm always pushing. Uh, I used to be the first, the one, I was the first of this and the first of that and the first of that. I am no longer looking to be, the first of anything. I am no longer looking to overcome any obstacle. My job today is to get rid of those obstacles and push and pull more and more women and Latinas and immigrants to achieve whatever the highest potential might be.
We could talk for hours about this. I have so many questions for you and so many ideas. In fact, I'm going to send you an email with a couple of organizations that you might want to know about, just to help advance the cause of the Latina 100, because that sounds like a great global effort that can reach out. I know you're taking it a step at a time, but can reach out even further. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any particular message about why you're working with the Treasury Historical Association and financial civics, and what does that mean? And I think it all lines up really beautifully with what you've expressed so far today.
Well, I got to tell you, the Treasury Historical Association has it's an invaluable tool to help further financial literacy in our nation, to maintain the the history of that institution. Before, I always talk about the fact that there was a treasurer of the United States for 14 years before there was a president of the United States. So treasury is truly, truly important. Um, it's the actually I believe, and I may be incorrect, but I believe it is the first cabinet position that gets filled. So it is really, really important, and we have tremendous opportunities with the Treasury Historical Association to further the noble goal of financial literacy, of improving the financial conditions of people across the United States. Unless we know how it works, unless we know how it functions, then we cannot make the right decisions. So I admire and I'm grateful that the Treasury Historical Association is there for that noble purpose. And I'm so grateful, and I will do anything that I can to further that even more so.